Morning hydration is important but must be done mindfully, especially as we age. Our bodies become more sensitive and require gentler care. We often hear the advice that drinking water first thing in the morning is one of the healthiest habits we can develop, and I agree with that, to an extent. Rehydrating after a long night of sleep is essential. Our bodies lose water through breathing and minor sweating during the night, even when we don't realize it. So yes, replenishing that loss is necessary. But in my personal experience, and from observing those around me, I've come to believe that the way we hydrate in the morning matters just as much as the act itself, especially as we grow older. In my 30s, I could wake up, chug a glass of cold water, and be out the door within minutes. It felt energizing, almost like a cold splash to the inside of my body. But now, approaching my 60s, I notice things have shifted. My body doesn't respond to that same routine the way it used to. If I drink too fast, I sometimes feel a little nauseous. If the water is too cold, it makes my stomach tighten uncomfortably. These reactions never used to happen before. That's when I started looking into the science of it and speaking with a few health professionals, and what I found confirmed what I had started to feel intuitively. As we age, our internal systems become more delicate. Our digestion slows, our blood pressure tends to fluctuate more easily, and our metabolism isn't as quick to adapt. That means that even something as simple as water can affect us differently. I used to think water was neutral, something you could never really do wrong. But I've realized that context matters, timing, temperature, and pace all play a role in how our bodies receive it. Morning is a particularly sensitive time for the body. Our hormones are shifting, our organs are coming out of a restful state, and our blood vessels are still slightly constricted from the sleep cycle. So, when we rush to drink water without mindfulness, it can actually stress our systems rather than support them. Now, I approach hydration as a gentle ritual. I let the water sit at room temperature overnight, or I use slightly warm water. I sip it slowly, breathing as I go, and give my body time to adjust. It's no longer just about quenching thirst, it's about starting the day with respect for the body that has carried me for decades. That small shift has made my mornings feel calmer, steadier, and more balanced. In conclusion, morning hydration is absolutely important, but it deserves more attention than we usually give it. It's not a one-size-fits-all habit, and as we age, being more mindful about how we hydrate can make a real difference. It's about tuning in, listening to what your body needs, and offering it care instead of just ticking off a wellness checklist. Drinking water too quickly after waking up can throw your body off balance. Slow, mindful sipping is much more beneficial, especially as we age. For years, I used to wake up and immediately chug a full glass of water within seconds. I thought I was doing something good for my health. After all, hydration is essential, right? And I was always told it's best to drink water first thing in the morning. But as I got older, I started noticing that some mornings, I'd feel dizzy, bloated, or even a little nauseous after that big gulp of water. At first, I thought it was just low blood sugar or maybe bad sleep, but then I realized the common denominator was how fast I was drinking water. The truth is, your body doesn't want a flood of water right after waking up, it wants a gentle introduction. In the first few minutes of the morning, your body is still transitioning from rest to activity. Your blood pressure is adjusting, your organs are slowly coming back online, and your digestion hasn't fully awakened. When you gulp water too quickly, especially on an empty stomach, it can cause your stomach to expand rapidly and even send mixed signals to your brain and heart. I've personally felt that strange flutter in the chest and lightheadedness, and for the longest time, I couldn't explain it. Now I realize I was overwhelming my system with something that was supposed to be helpful. This shift in awareness changed my entire morning routine. Instead of grabbing a glass of water and chugging it like I used to, I now pour myself a room temperature glass and take small, slow sips over a period of 15 to 20 minutes. I usually sit by the window or take a quiet walk around the house as I sip. It's a peaceful way to start the day, and it helps me stay in tune with how my body feels. I actually look forward to this time now. It's no longer just about hydration, it's a mindful moment of self-care. One of my older friends, Walter, once told me he used to drink an entire bottle of water before even getting out of bed because he thought it was disciplined. But he, too, began experiencing dizzy spells that he couldn't explain. It wasn't until he started drinking his water slowly that those issues disappeared. It's amazing how a small change in pace can have such a big impact on how we feel. In my opinion, rushing through water intake defeats the whole purpose of morning hydration. It's not about quantity or speed, it's about quality and intention. Drinking slowly gives your body time to absorb what it needs without overwhelming your kidneys, your stomach, or your nervous system. So if you're someone who rushes through your morning water just to get it out of the way, I'd really encourage you to try slowing down tomorrow. Take your time, sip, breathe, and let your body ease into the day. Trust me, it makes a bigger difference than you'd expect. Drinking from plastic bottles that have been left out overnight, especially in a warm room, is a hidden health risk that many people overlook. I used to be one of those people who always kept a plastic water bottle by my bedside. It felt convenient, and honestly, I thought I was being responsible by staying hydrated the moment I woke up. But over time, I started reading more about what happens to plastic when it sits, especially in warmer environments. What I found genuinely surprised me and made me rethink my entire approach. When plastic bottles, especially those made with cheaper materials, sit out for hours, especially near a lamp, heater, or in a stuffy room, they can begin to leach chemicals into the water. One of the main culprits is BPA, bisphenol A, a chemical known for interfering with the body's hormonal system. Even bottles labeled BPA-free can contain other compounds that behave similarly in the body. And let's face it, when you're older, your system is already doing a delicate balancing act with blood pressure, thyroid health, and digestion. Adding chemical stress is the last thing it needs. Personally, I didn't notice the effects right away, but after several months of this bedside water bottle habit, I began feeling more sluggish in the mornings, and I couldn't understand why. I'd wake up tired, sometimes with a mild headache, and I just assumed it was part of aging or maybe poor sleep. It wasn't until I came across a video discussing the dangers of long-exposed plastic bottles that it clicked. I remembered how often I'd refill the same bottle without cleaning it, and how warm my room could get overnight. That healthy habit wasn't so healthy after all. I decided to make a simple change. I switched to a glass bottle. It might sound trivial, but the difference I felt was real. I began each day with fresh, clean water poured in the morning, and I ditched the habit of reusing the same bottle over and over. Within about a week, my mornings started to feel lighter. No more unexplained fogginess or weird bloated feelings. It's not magic, it's just giving my body one less toxin to process. One of my neighbors, Stanley, went through something similar. At 78, he had always been diligent about drinking water, but when his energy levels dropped and his digestion became irregular, his doctor and nutritionist traced it back to, you guessed it, reused plastic bottles. Switching to glass made a noticeable difference for him too. In my opinion, we often underestimate the impact of small, daily habits. We think, it's just water in a bottle, how bad could it be? But when you're doing that every day for months or even years, the risk adds up. Your kidneys, liver, and hormones are quietly working overtime to process those chemicals. So here's my advice: if you're still using a plastic bottle that's been sitting out overnight, consider upgrading to glass or stainless steel. And make it a ritual. Pour fresh water each morning, not just for health, but as an act of care. Sometimes, the simplest switches give our bodies the biggest relief. Drinking water immediately after taking medication, especially on a very full or completely empty stomach, is a surprisingly sensitive issue that doesn't get enough attention. For years, I thought I was doing the right thing: wake up, take my morning medication, and wash it down with a big glass of water. No questions asked. After all, doctors always say to take pills with water, right? But they rarely go into the details: how much water, how fast, and whether it should be before or after food. Over time, I began noticing that something felt off. Some mornings I'd feel lightheaded, queasy, or even slightly bloated, and I couldn't figure out why. At first, I blamed the medication itself. Maybe my body was reacting badly to it, or maybe it was just age catching up with me. But after experimenting a little with my routine, I realized it wasn't the medicine, it was how I was taking it. The truth is, your stomach is quite vulnerable first thing in the morning. It's either completely empty and acidic, or, after breakfast, full and already working hard on digestion. Adding too much water too quickly into either scenario can disrupt the delicate balance your digestive system is trying to maintain. In my case, I was taking a thyroid medication, which is supposed to be absorbed on an empty stomach. I used to follow it with a full glass of water, and sometimes I'd eat breakfast within 10 to 15 minutes. What I didn't realize was that both the amount of water and the short wait time were interfering with the effectiveness of the pill. Plus, the sudden volume of liquid on an empty stomach made me feel nauseous. A small adjustment changed everything. I now take my medication with just a few sips of water, enough to swallow the pill comfortably, and I wait about 45 minutes before having a light breakfast. Since doing that, the queasiness is gone and I feel much more stable in the mornings. This reminded me of a friend, Margaret, who went through something similar. She's 80 and had started feeling foggy and off in the mornings. No changes in her meds, no new foods, but she was drinking a full glass of water immediately after her pills, often right after breakfast. Her doctor helped her figure out that her water habits were disrupting absorption and causing mild indigestion. Once she spaced things out and drank more mindfully, things improved quickly. To me, this is a powerful example of how it's not always about what you're doing, it's about how you're doing it. Drinking water is healthy, taking medication is necessary, but if done too quickly, at the wrong time, or in the wrong way, those good habits can backfire. Our bodies aren't machines, they need rhythm, gentleness, and attention. So here's my takeaway: listen to your body. If your mornings start with discomfort or unease, don't just assume it's your meds or your age. It might be your water routine. Try slowing down, reducing the amount, and spacing out your meals. Small adjustments can lead to big relief, and your body will thank you for it. Skipping breakfast and replacing it with just water may sound like a simple and even trendy health choice, but in my experience, especially for older adults, it can quietly drain your energy and throw your whole day off balance. There was a time when I believed the growing popularity of intermittent fasting made sense for everyone. Articles and videos kept praising the idea of just drink water and wait until noon to eat. I thought it might help me feel lighter, maybe even lose a bit of weight. So I tried it. I'd wake up, drink a big glass of water, maybe have some coffee, and wait hours before eating anything. At first, it felt okay, energizing even. But after a few weeks, I started noticing subtle but concerning changes. I was more irritable in the mornings, I had trouble focusing, and by 10 a.m. my hands would sometimes tremble slightly. Still, I brushed it off as stress or poor sleep. Eventually, I realized that what I thought was healthy discipline was actually making me weaker, not stronger. My brain was running on empty, and my body was sending clear signals. I needed fuel, not just hydration. Water alone couldn't provide the nutrients my body required after a long night of fasting. For younger people with more metabolic flexibility, this may not be as noticeable. But as we age, our systems become more sensitive. Blood sugar drops more quickly, energy reserves deplete faster, and without something solid in the stomach, the day starts with a physiological disadvantage. Take my neighbor Alice, for example. She's 69, full of life, and very proactive about her health. She'd been following a water-only morning routine, inspired by fasting trends she read about online. At first, it helped her lose a few pounds, but soon she began to forget small things, where she left her keys, what she was about to say. Her mood dipped, and she felt unusually tired by mid-morning. Her daughter gently encouraged her to go back to having a light breakfast. So Alice added a simple routine: a boiled egg, a slice of toast, maybe a little fruit. Within a week, the brain fog lifted, her energy returned, and she felt like herself again. For me, this was a turning point. It wasn't just about the food, it was about respecting the body's real needs. Water is essential, no doubt. But water alone can't support cognitive function, stabilize blood sugar, or fuel muscles. Even a small breakfast, some nuts, yogurt, or a banana, can make a massive difference in how the rest of the day feels. It helps you start with clarity, with strength, and most importantly, with balance. So now, I view breakfast as a form of self-respect, especially as I get older. It doesn't have to be heavy or elaborate, but it needs to be there. If you're someone who's been replacing food with water in the morning, thinking it's healthier, take a moment to really listen to your body. Maybe tomorrow, try adding just one simple thing to your morning, and see how you feel. Sometimes nourishment is the most powerful medicine. Drinking ice-cold water first thing in the morning might seem refreshing, but in my opinion, and experience, it can actually do more harm than good, especially as we grow older. I used to be one of those people who believed that starting the day with a tall glass of ice-cold water was a healthy habit. It felt crisp, energizing, and even a little cleansing. For years, I kept a water bottle in the fridge and took great pride in the discipline of hydrating first thing in the morning. But as I moved into my late 50s, something changed. That once refreshing gulp started to make my stomach feel tight. Sometimes, I even felt a slight headache or a strange chill afterward. At first, I didn't think the water had anything to do with it. I blamed it on sleep or stress. But when I swapped the cold water for room temperature water one week, everything started to feel better. That experience taught me something simple yet powerful: our bodies evolve, and what once felt invigorating can now feel jarring. Cold water might shock your system when it's in a delicate state, especially right after waking up. Think about it, your body has just spent hours in rest and repair mode. Your organs, digestion, and circulation have slowed down. Suddenly dumping freezing water into your stomach is like slamming on the brakes while trying to accelerate. One story that really resonated with me was about a woman named Eleanor, 76 years old, who used to swear by cold water in the morning. It helped her wake up and clear her throat. But over time, her hands would get cold, her digestion slowed, and she didn't feel quite right afterward. When she switched to room temperature water, her symptoms improved almost immediately. That's when I realized it wasn't just me, others were noticing the same pattern. As we age, our blood vessels become more sensitive, and our digestion is more easily disrupted. That quick constriction of the stomach and blood vessels caused by cold water can lead to cramps, poor circulation, or even nausea. It's not that water itself is harmful, it's the temperature and the timing. I think people underestimate just how much the how matters, not just the what. Now, I let my water sit for 10 to 15 minutes before drinking it in the morning. Sometimes I even add a slice of lemon or warm it slightly. It feels gentler, more nurturing. My stomach reacts better, and I start the day with a calm, steady energy rather than a jolt. I truly believe this small change has made a noticeable impact on how I feel throughout the morning. In my view, respecting the body's rhythms is one of the kindest things we can do for ourselves, especially as we get older. If cold water has been your go-to and something feels off in the mornings, don't brush it aside. Try switching to room temperature or lukewarm water for a few days. You might be surprised at how much better your body responds. It's not about giving up healthy habits, it's about adapting them as our needs change. Drinking water too fast in the morning might seem like a harmless habit, but in my experience, it's actually one of the most overlooked mistakes when it comes to morning health routines, especially for older adults. For a long time, I was in the habit of waking up, grabbing a full glass of water, and chugging it down in one go. It felt like a productive, healthy start to the day. I had read somewhere that it jump-starts the metabolism, and I wanted to stay disciplined. But gradually, I noticed that I would feel slightly dizzy or nauseous afterward. Some mornings, I even had a fluttering feeling in my chest or a sudden urge to sit down. I never made the connection between those symptoms and my water drinking routine, until I came across an article that explained how drinking too fast could shock the system. Now, when I really think about it, it makes perfect sense. When we wake up in the morning, our body is in a transitional state. Our blood pressure is adjusting, the heart rate is slowly rising, and the stomach hasn't quite woken up yet. Dumping a large volume of water into the stomach all at once is like overwhelming a computer with too many commands at once. It throws everything out of sync. A friend of mine, Walter, who's in his 70s, shared a similar story. He used to drink a full bottle of water before even getting out of bed. He thought he was being disciplined and doing the right thing, but he often felt lightheaded and sluggish afterward. It wasn't until his doctor suggested sipping the water slowly over 15 to 20 minutes that he started to feel more balanced in the mornings. That small change made a big difference. After hearing that, I began experimenting with my own water drinking habits. I swapped chugging for sipping. I sat up in bed, took a few deep breaths, and slowly drank my water in intervals over 10 to 15 minutes. To my surprise, the nausea and dizziness disappeared. My energy felt more stable, and my stomach didn't feel like it was doing backflips anymore. It was such a simple shift, but it brought noticeable results. In my opinion, this all comes down to how we treat our bodies in those first precious minutes of the day. We often think about hydration as a checklist item, something to get out of the way. But what if we approached it more mindfully? What if we thought of it as a gentle ritual, a way of saying good morning to our internal systems? The truth is, hydration is not just about volume, it's about pace. And especially as we get older, our bodies become more sensitive to rapid changes. Gulping down a big glass of water might feel productive, but it's not necessarily helpful. So if you've ever felt off after your morning drink, try slowing down. Let your body ease into the day. Take small sips. Listen to how you feel. You may find, like I did, that this small act of awareness brings a huge improvement in your mornings. Sometimes, it's not about doing more, but doing things with more care. Drinking water in the morning seems simple, but combining it with medication, especially on an empty or overly full stomach, can create unintended problems. I used to think that as long as I was taking my medicine with water, I was doing everything right. But over time, I realized that timing, quantity, and context matter far more than I initially thought. In my personal experience, I had been taking a thyroid medication every morning for years. I'd wake up, pop the pill, and down a large glass of water. Sometimes, I did this before even getting out of bed. But soon, I started experiencing morning nausea. It wasn't severe, but it was persistent enough to be annoying. I assumed it was the medication itself or just a part of getting older. However, after speaking with a healthcare professional, I learned that the issue might not be the medicine, but how I was taking it. When we take medication, especially early in the morning, our stomach is often completely empty, and our digestion hasn't fully woken up. Adding a large amount of water on top of that can flood the stomach too quickly. This not only causes discomfort, like nausea, cramping, or bloating, but it can also interfere with how the body absorbs the medication. Some medicines require a more gradual absorption or a certain pH level in the stomach, and flooding the system with water can dilute those conditions. I tried changing my routine based on this advice. Instead of a full glass of water, I sipped just enough to swallow the pill. Then I waited 30 to 45 minutes before eating breakfast and drinking more water. To my surprise, the nausea disappeared completely. My mornings became smoother and more comfortable, and my focus improved throughout the day. It was a small shift, but it made a big difference. I've also noticed this issue in the opposite scenario, taking medication after a big breakfast and following it up with a full glass of water. That too can cause problems. A full stomach, combined with a large volume of water, can make the body work harder to digest, and again, certain medications may not be absorbed effectively. It's a balancing act, and our bodies often let us know when something isn't quite right. A good friend of mine, Margaret, experienced something similar. She was taking her daily medication with a full breakfast and a tall glass of water, thinking it was the safest option. But she began feeling bloated and unusually tired in the mornings. After adjusting her water intake and spacing out her food a little more, she also saw noticeable improvements. In my opinion, we don't talk enough about the how of taking medication. Everyone emphasizes what to take and when to take it, but few people talk about how much water, or whether your stomach should be full, empty, or somewhere in between. These are small details, but they deeply affect how our bodies respond. To me, the key takeaway is simple: listen to your body. Don't just follow a routine blindly. If something feels off after taking medication in the morning, consider how you're drinking your water and whether your stomach is truly ready for what you're putting into it. Sometimes, the gentlest changes bring the greatest relief. There's a growing trend around skipping breakfast in favor of just drinking water in the morning, often inspired by intermittent fasting or minimalistic health routines. While this may work for some people, especially younger adults with stable health and fast metabolisms, I believe that for older individuals, like myself, this approach can quietly do more harm than good. A few years ago, I tried intermittent fasting. I was drawn in by all the promises: more energy, better focus, and even weight loss. So I stopped eating breakfast and instead drank only water in the morning. For the first few days, it felt okay. I convinced myself I was being healthy. But by the end of the first week, I noticed some troubling changes. My energy levels dropped sharply mid-morning. I felt foggy, irritable, and weak, even though I wasn't necessarily hungry in the usual sense. It wasn't until I almost fainted while standing in line at the pharmacy that I realized this routine wasn't working for me. What I learned, and now strongly believe, is that our bodies, especially as we age, need fuel to function well in the morning. After fasting for 8 to 10 hours overnight, our blood sugar levels are low, our muscles are running on empty, and our brains need glucose to work efficiently. Water is essential, no doubt. It rehydrates us and kickstarts our metabolism, but it can't replace nutrients. Our bodies aren't just thirsty when we wake up, they're hungry too, even if that hunger isn't loud. I started eating a light breakfast again: a boiled egg, a slice of whole grain toast, maybe some fruit or oatmeal. It wasn't much, but it made a noticeable difference. I felt more grounded, more alert, and emotionally balanced throughout the morning. No more dizziness, no more energy crashes. That small breakfast was like an anchor for my day. I also noticed how this change affected my mental clarity. Before breakfast, I'd find myself rereading emails multiple times or losing track of simple tasks. Once I brought breakfast back into my routine, I became sharper and more efficient. It's not about eating a huge meal, it's about giving your body the tools it needs to start the day strong. A close friend of mine, Alice, had a similar experience. She's in her late 60s and was skipping breakfast to simplify her mornings. Over time, her mood worsened, her memory seemed off, and she blamed it on aging. But after adding a small meal in the morning, her energy returned and her mind felt clearer. Sometimes what we think is aging is really just undernourishment. In my opinion, the idea that less is more doesn't always apply to our morning routine, especially for those of us past midlife. Water is critical, but so is nourishment. Skipping breakfast and relying solely on water might feel like discipline, but it can quietly drain your energy and well-being. So if you've been following this water-only morning habit and something feels off, I encourage you to experiment with adding a light breakfast. Listen to your body. It will usually tell you exactly what it needs, you just have to be willing to hear it. There's a saying that goes, "You're only as old as you feel," and I believe there's real truth in that. Over the years, I've come to realize that our mindset, especially whether we think positively or negatively, has a huge influence on how we age, both inside and out. In my opinion, negative thinking can make us grow old faster than any number of candles on a birthday cake ever could. When we constantly worry, complain, or expect the worst, our bodies respond. I've noticed this in myself and others. For a while, I was stuck in a cycle of negative thinking. I worried about money, health, the future, you name it. I thought being realistic meant preparing for the worst. But instead of feeling strong or prepared, I felt drained, tired, and even older than I was. My posture changed, my face looked more tired, and I began avoiding new experiences. Life felt heavier, even though nothing had really changed around me, only my mindset had. On the flip side, I have a neighbor who's nearly 80, and she's one of the most cheerful people I know. She jokes with everyone, laughs easily, and always sees the silver lining in every situation. She doesn't ignore her problems, she just refuses to let them control her outlook. She told me once, I choose to be happy, even on the days when it's hard. And the amazing part, she moves like someone much younger, has a sparkle in her eyes, and people love being around her. Her optimistic attitude truly keeps her young. Scientifically, stress and negativity can age us. Chronic stress produces cortisol, a hormone that, when elevated over time, can lead to high blood pressure, weight gain, and even memory problems. It can dull our skin, weaken our immune system, and cause sleep problems. On the other hand, positivity boosts serotonin and endorphins, which support better mental health, sharper thinking, and even a stronger heart. So in a real sense, being optimistic isn't just about feeling better, it can help us live better. From my own experience, I've made it a daily habit to catch my negative thoughts and flip them. If I catch myself thinking, I'm too old for this, I challenge that thought and ask, why not me? Or if I start feeling down, I try to find one small thing to be grateful for. It could be a warm cup of tea or a good conversation. These tiny shifts add up, and over time, I felt lighter, more energetic, and yes, even younger. Staying young isn't only about how many wrinkles we have or how fast we can run. It's about having the courage to hope, to smile, and to look forward to tomorrow with curiosity instead of fear. That kind of energy is contagious, and it brings life to our years, not just years to our life. So, if there's one piece of advice I'd offer, it's this: don't underestimate the power of your thoughts. Choose optimism. It may not solve every problem, but it will certainly make the journey much brighter, and help you feel younger every step of the way.